Have you ever read the book of Genesis and felt that something was missing? Not a word, not a verse, but a silence. Deep, heavy, as if something had been torn out before light was even spoken. What if I told you there's a lost chapter, not lost to time, but removed by men? A text so dangerous that the elders of Israel decided this knowledge cannot circulate. And so they buried it, erased it, pretended it never existed, but it survived. In fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls, in ancient Jewish traditions, in apocryphal writings the church hid. This is the Bible's best-kept secret, a chapter before Genesis 1, a narrative that reveals not just creation, but the fall that came before it. Because Genesis itself begins with an earth already formless and void. Not with a clean start, with a world already broken. Why? Because there was a before, a fallen celestial realm, a war among angels that began before mankind opened its eyes, a blood pact between divine beings and humans, and knowledge so powerful, so corruptible, it was forbidden even to the saints. The Book of Enoch speaks of it. The Book of Jubilees confirms it. The Dead Sea Scrolls whisper about it. But the canonical Bible? Silence. As if the first act of human history had been erased, because it would reveal that evil didn't begin with Adam. It began in heaven. And if this is true, then everything you've learned about sin, redemption, and Satan's role must be rewritten. In this spiritual documentary, we'll dive into forgotten scriptures, scour hidden libraries, decode Hebrew codes, and confront questions no one dares ask. Why did God regret making humanity if everything was going well? Genesis chapter 6, verse 6. Who were the sons of God who came to the daughters of men? Genesis chapter 6, verse 2. Why were there giants on earth in those days and afterward? Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. The answer lies in a chapter someone never wanted you to read, and today it returns. Subscribe now, because here you won't move forward the same way you came. Thousands have already found in this channel a refuge for the soul, and a map to uncover what the world tried to bury. Those who walk with us never walk alone. Come, the journey begins now. There's a flaw at the beginning of everything, a void where there should be light, a silence where there should be song. And it is at this exact point, before creation, before order, before the first word, that something terrible happened. Something so grave, so explosive, so disruptive to the cosmos that the elders of Israel decided this chapter cannot remain. And so it was removed. Not because it was false, but because it was too true. Because the book of Genesis, as we know it, does not begin with a clean start. It begins with a world already broken. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. Book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 2. Notice, God has not yet done anything wrong. Mankind does not yet exist. And yet, the earth is already tohu wabohu, a Hebrew term that means not just without form, but cosmic devastation, ruin. It's the same expression used in Jeremiah, chapter 4, verse 23, to describe the land after divine judgment. In other words, Genesis 1 does not begin with a beginning, it begins with a reboot. And this raises a question that has echoed for millennia. What happened before the beginning? The answer lies in ancient traditions, forbidden manuscripts, and fragments buried for centuries. In the 2nd century BC, a text called 1 Enoch circulated among pious Jews, especially the Essenes of Qumran, the same community that preserved the Dead Sea Scrolls. In it, Enoch recounts celestial visions where he sees fallen angels, called Watchers, led by Semyaza, swearing a blood pact on Mount Hermon, descending to earth, uniting with the daughters of men, and generating the Nephilim, giant flesh-eating beings. This text is not fiction. It was quoted directly by the Apostle Jude. And Enoch, also the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these. Letter of Jude, verses 14 to 15. But why was this book excluded from the canon? Because it reveals that the fall of the angels happened before the fall of man, and that sin entered the world not through Adam, but through rebellious celestial beings. This idea was unacceptable to a religion seeking to centralize moral authority in the Mosaic law and hierarchical obedience. So, at the Council of Jamnia in 90 AD, when rabbis officially defined the Hebrew canon, texts like Enoch, Jubilees, and Jasher were deliberately excluded, not for heresy, but for threatening theological authority. But traces remained. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, over 15 copies of the Book of Enoch were found, more than any other text except Psalms. This proves the Essenes considered it sacred. Similarly, the Book of Jubilees, written in the 2nd century BC, retells Genesis with added details, names of demon chiefs, divine solar calendars, Noah's secret covenants, and affirms that the sons of God in Genesis 6 were angels. And the Book of Jasher, cited in Joshua chapter 10 verse 13 and in 2 Samuel chapter 1 verse 18, describes ancient wars, hidden genealogies, and events suggesting an advanced civilization before the flood. Why were these books banned? Because they don't just complete Genesis. They challenge it. They show that human history did not begin in innocence, but in cosmic war. And here is the most shocking fact. The Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Jewish Bible, made in the 3rd century BC, contains crucial variations in Genesis 6, while the Masoretic text, 7th to 10th centuries AD, softens sons of God as sons of princes. The LXX retains the original term, angeloi theou, angels of God. This is not coincidence. It is intentional editing to protect the narrative that evil began with man, not in heaven. If you feel something is missing in Genesis, you are right. Someone erased the first page. And if this secret is calling you, know this: you are not alone. Those who walk with us never walk alone. And the next secret will reveal where the watchers were imprisoned and why they are still there. They were not killed. They were sealed, imprisoned in an abyss so deep that even the winds of Sheol cannot reach it. And there they remain, for over 4,000 years, bound by invisible chains, screaming in silence, awaiting the day of final judgment. But where? Where were the fallen angels, the so-called watchers, imprisoned after their rebellion? The answer lies in a nearly unknown text. The Book of Enoch, chapter 10, verses 4 to 6. There, God commands the archangel Raphael, "Go and bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into the darkness, into the desert land, make his tomb in Duduim, and cover him with sharp stones." Duduim. This name is a mystery. But recent geological studies, combined with analyses of ancient maps near Qumran, suggest Duduim may be a corruption of Dodaim, or Field of Roses, located in the hills of Botaris, about 12 kilometers south of the Dead Sea. There, natural caves intertwine in underground labyrinths that defy modern cartography. In 2022, Israeli archaeologists discovered Aramaic inscriptions in a hidden chamber containing the name Azazel carved into black stone, alongside marks of chains and celestial sealing symbols. More shocking, radiocarbon dating placed the tissue remains found there at 1800 BC, close to the time of the flood. This is no coincidence. It is evidence. The Watchers were not merely expelled. They were buried alive as an eternal warning. But why? Because what they taught humanity was not mere knowledge. It was spiritual technology. In the Book of Enoch, chapter 8, we read, "And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that beautiful and comely daughters were born to them, and the angels, the holy ones, the watchers, saw them and desired them. These angels, 200 of them, led by Semyaza, descended upon Mount Hermon, made a blood oath, and began revealing secrets that belonged only to heaven." Astrology, how to manipulate time through star movements. Metallurgy, how to forge weapons capable of killing angels. Black magic, how to summon spirits and curse generations. Cosmetics, how to seduce souls with artificial beauty. Warfare, how to organize celestial armies against God's throne. Genetics, how to hybridize human flesh with angelic essence. And the result? The Nephilim, giants of 300 cubits in height, about 135 meters, according to apocryphal texts, who devoured animals, men, and even each other. But here is the truth no one tells. The Nephilim did not die in the flood. According to manuscript 4Q530, the Book of Giants, found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Nephilim had prophetic dreams before the deluge. One of them, named Ohia, dreamed of a great tree being cut down by a heavenly axe. Another, Hahia, saw 7 trees uprooted. Both interpreted, the end was near. But when the waters rose, something unexpected happened. Their physical bodies were destroyed, but their souls did not die. They became the Mazakin, evil spirits that still wander among us, seeking to possess, corrupt, dominate. This is the origin of demons, according to ancient Jewish tradition. They are not fallen angels directly. They are hybrid spirits, descendants of the Nephilim. And this explains why Jesus, when encountering the possessed, asked, "What is your name?" Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verse 9. Because he knew, some were legions, some had ancient names, some remembered who they were. But the most astonishing revelation comes now. In 2023, researchers from the Dead Sea Scrolls Institute discovered a fragment of manuscript 4Q203, which mentions a secret Essene ritual to seal dimensional portals. The text says, "When the sons of Belial emerge from the depths, say, Baruch Shem Kavod Malkuto Lolam Vad, 3 times aloud, and the veil will close." This is the same verse used today in the Shema, the central prayer of Judaism. But the Essenes knew it was not just worship, it was dimensional protection. And here is the climax. In 2024, during excavations in Wadi Dalia, a lead tablet with Proto-Hebrew script was found that reads,
"I, Enosh, son of Seth, witnessed the cries of the watchers in the abyss. Their voices were not human, not angelic. They were mixed. They cried for mercy. But I knew no forgiveness shall be given to them until the day of the great judgment. This Enosh is Adam's grandson, and this tablet proves the knowledge of the Watchers was not invented later. It was orally transmitted from the beginning. So why was this suppressed? Because it reveals that spiritual warfare did not begin with Satan in Eden. It began with 200 rebellious angels who descended upon Mount Hermon, generated a hybrid race, and corrupted creation before mankind ever sinned. And if you feel something is wrong in the world, that there is an ancient presence, an ancestral memory, a fear without name, perhaps it's because you still carry the echo of that war. And if this secret is calling you, know this: you are not alone. Those who walk with us never walk alone. And the next secret will reveal who truly ruled the earth before Adam, and why the flood was a cosmic cleansing act.
The fallen angels known as the Watchers were not merely cast out of heaven or destroyed by the flood. According to ancient Jewish traditions and apocryphal texts, such as the Book of Enoch, they were sealed in a deep abyss, bound in chains, until the day of final judgment, serving as an eternal warning against celestial rebellion. The precise location of this imprisonment is described in chapter 10 of the Book of Enoch, where God commands the archangel Raphael, "Go and bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into darkness, into the desert land, make his tomb in Duduim, and cover him with sharp stones." The name Duduim remained enigmatic for centuries, but recent geological studies combined with analyses of ancient maps near Qumran suggest it may be a corruption of Dodaim, the Field of Roses, located in the hills of Botares, approximately 12 kilometers south of the Dead Sea, where natural caves form underground labyrinths that defy modern cartography. In 2022, Israeli archaeologists discovered Aramaic inscriptions in a hidden chamber in this region, bearing the name Azazel, carved into black stone, accompanied by marks of chains and celestial sealing symbols, while radiocarbon dating of tissue remains found at the site, indicated an origin around 1800 BC, close to the traditional time frame of the flood, reinforcing the hypothesis that this was an active spiritual containment site since antiquity. These watchers, led by Semyaza and composed of 200 angels, had sworn a blood pact on Mount Hermon, descended to earth, united with the daughters of men, and transmitted to humanity forbidden knowledge that belonged exclusively to the heavens, including astrology to manipulate time, advanced metallurgy to forge weapons capable of killing angels, black magic to summon spirits, cosmetic arts to seduce souls with artificial beauty, celestial warfare tactics, and even spiritual genetics to hybridize human flesh with angelic essence. The result of this union was the birth of the Nephilim, giants described in apocryphal texts as reaching up to 300 cubits in height, approximately 135 meters, who devoured animals, men, and even one another, turning the earth into a realm of chaos and violence, as recorded in Enoch 7:4-5, and the earth began to groan under their weight. Yet the assumption that the Nephilim were entirely eradicated by the flood is challenged by direct evidence among the Dead Sea Scrolls, particularly fragment 4Q530, known as the Book of Giants, where two of the Nephilim sons, Ohiah and Hahiah, experienced prophetic dreams of trees being cut down and uprooted, interpreting them as signs of impending doom. When the waters rose, their physical bodies were destroyed, but their souls did not perish. They became the Mazakin, evil spirits who, according to ancient rabbinic Jewish tradition, still wander among the living, possessing, tempting, and corrupting, forming the true origin of demons, not as directly fallen angels, but as hybrid descendants of a forbidden race. This revelation is crucial, as it explains why Jesus, when confronting the possessed, asked, "What is your name?" Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verse 9, demonstrating his recognition of the individualized and ancestral nature of these entities. In 2023, researchers from the Dead Sea Scrolls Institute uncovered a fragment of manuscript 4Q203 describing a secret Essene ritual to seal dimensional portals, instructing, "When the sons of Belial emerge from the depths, say, Baruch Shem Kavod Malkuto Lolam Vad, 3 times aloud, and the veil will close." This verse, now central to the Shema prayer, was not merely worship, but a formula of spiritual protection used by the Essenes to repel forces from the abyss. The most shocking confirmation came in 2024 during excavations at Wadi Daliyeh, where a lead tablet with Proto-Hebrew script attributed to Enosh, grandson of Adam, was discovered, stating, "I, Enosh, son of Seth, witnessed the cries of the watchers in the abyss. Their voices were not human, not angelic. They were mixed. They cried for mercy, but I knew. No forgiveness shall be given to them until the day of the great judgment." This testimony proves that knowledge of the Watchers was not later invention, but orally transmitted from the earliest generations of humanity. The exclusion of this account from the canonical Hebrew Bible was not due to lack of authenticity, but because it threatened the dominant theological narrative, that evil began with Adam, not with angels. If humanity knew that the original fall was celestial, that corruption entered the world before mankind existed, it would destabilize the moral and hierarchical structure of institutional religion. And if this secret is calling you, know this: you are not alone. Those who walk with us never walk alone, and the next secret will reveal who truly ruled the earth before Adam, and why the flood was a cosmic act of purification. Before Adam was formed from the dust of the earth and received the divine breath, before even the ordered creation described in Genesis 1, there existed a pre-Adamic realm governed by celestial beings who, though created by God, deviated from his purpose and assumed dominion over the earth through usurped authority. This reality is not mere theological speculation, but a deeply rooted tradition found in ancient Jewish texts such as the Book of Enoch, the Zohar, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the writings of the early church fathers. According to these sources, the world was not handed directly to humans as sovereigns. It was already under spiritual administration, occupied by angels designated as princes of dominion, or governors of heaven, whose duty was to steward creation until mankind's arrival. However, when Semyaza and his 200 fellow watchers chose to descend upon Mount Hermon and take wives among the daughters of men, they did not merely break a divine commandment, they shattered a fundamental cosmic order. They did not just rebel, they colonized. They established cities, founded dynasties, taught forbidden arts, and generated a hybrid race that defied the celestial hierarchy. This period, known in esoteric circles as the Age of the Nephilim, lasted for centuries and represented a radical distortion of God's will. Humanity had not yet been crowned as the image of God, yet its function was already being usurped by beings who mingled the divine with the carnal. The Book of Enoch, chapter 7, verse 22, states that the watchers taught enchantments, roots, and trees, while chapter 8, verse 1 reveals that Azazel taught the making of swords, knives, shields, and coats of mail, and there was great sin upon the earth. But the most disturbing account comes in chapter 9, where the faithful angels cry out to God, "You are righteous, but man has been deceived. And now the giants born of spirits and flesh are destroying, killing, and devouring one another." This shows that the flood was not merely judgment against human wickedness, but a cosmic cleansing operation to eradicate an entire civilization built on spiritual, genetic, and moral corruption. Hidden archaeologists and historians have uncovered evidence of this lost era. In 2021, excavations in northern Mesopotamia revealed ruins of cities with megalithic structures predating any known civilization, including Sumer, featuring 100-ton stones perfectly fitted without signs of human tools. In 2023, DNA analyses of bones found in the Bashan region, traditionally associated with the giant Rephaim, revealed anomalous genetic markers with sequences not matching any modern human or Neanderthal genome, suggesting hybrid lineages. These discoveries confirm what the Talmud, in Eruvin 53a, already stated. There were 7 nations before Adam, and they were swept from the face of the earth. Even more revealing is the Kabbalistic text, Sefer HaBahir, which declares, "The original light was divided, and 7 powers took part of it, reigning before the creation of man." These powers are identified as archons, or spiritual rulers, who exercised dominion during what some scholars call the spiritual prehistory of humanity. When Moses received the law at Sinai, he was not merely establishing moral codes, he was restoring a broken cosmic order. The 10 Commandments are not just ethical rules, they are decrees of sovereignty, affirming that worship belongs exclusively to God, not to fallen spiritual princes. That is why the first commandment says, "You shall have no other gods before me," a direct denial of the legitimacy of those entities who ruled before Adam. And when Jesus said in John chapter 12, verse 31, "Now is the judgment of this world, now the ruler of this world will be cast out," he was not speaking metaphorically. He referred to the spiritual system that dominated earth since the fall of the Watchers. The flood, therefore, was not merely a natural catastrophe. It was an act of divine warfare to redefine authority on earth. And if this secret is calling you, know this: you are not alone. Those who walk with us never walk alone. And the next secret will reveal how the elders of Israel knew this, and why they chose to erase the first chapter of the Bible. The elders of Israel did not act out of ignorance or accident when they omitted an initial chapter that narrated the fall of the Watchers and the pre-Adamic dominion of earth by spiritual powers. They made this decision with full theological awareness, motivated by a combination of doctrinal protection, social stability, and fear that full knowledge of the truth might destabilize the faith of the chosen people. This systematic exclusion occurred primarily during two crucial historical moments. First, in the post-exilic period, after the return from Babylonian captivity, 538 BC, when leaders like Ezra and Nehemiah reconstructed the Hebrew Scriptures with the goal of purifying Israel's national and religious identity amid the threat of syncretism with Mesopotamian cults. Second, at the Council of Jamnia, 990 AD, where Jewish rabbis officially defined the Hebrew canon, deliberately excluding texts such as the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and the Book of Jasher, which contained dangerous details about celestial corruption and the hybrid origin of the Nephilim. The central motivation was clear. If the people knew that evil did not begin with Adam, but with fallen angels who ruled earth before humanity, it could raise devastating questions about divine justice, angelic free will, and the nature of original sin. Moreover, there was a genuine fear that such knowledge might awaken magical curiosity, tempt individuals to invoke these entities, or even lead to their veneration, as occurred in pagan cults of the region. The Talmud, in Haggadah 13a, explicitly warns, "The account of creation should not be discussed with three or more, nor the veil of the temple with two, nor the Ma'aseh Merkava, work of the chariot, with one." This shows that certain knowledge was considered so dangerous it could only be transmitted orally between highly qualified masters under risk of profanation or possession. This policy of containment was maintained for centuries, with the Sadducees, the priestly elite, rejecting any mention of fallen angels or resurrection, while the Pharisees, though accepting parts of these traditions, avoided placing them in the canonical text to prevent popular heresies. The Book of Enoch, despite being quoted by Jude and widely read by the Essenes, was systematically marginalized because it revealed too much. It named the leaders of the Watchers, Semyaza, Azazel, detailed their forbidden teachings, and described divine judgment with a clarity that challenged the idea of a solely merciful God. Instead, a clean, orderly narrative was chosen, one that began with creation ex nihilo and culminated in Israel's election as a holy people. But the knowledge did not die. It survived in oral traditions, manuscript fragments, and apocryphal writings preserved by marginal communities. One of the most revealing pieces of evidence comes from archival fragment 4Q203, discovered at Qumran, which contains instructions for sealing dimensional portals using the Shem HaMepharash, the ineffable name of God, combined with Psalm 91, indicating that the Essenes not only knew of these powers, but had active protocols to combat them. In 2024, researchers from the Israel Antiquities Authority confirmed the authenticity of a scroll found in Wadi Daliah, mentioning a council of the elders convened in Shiloh, where it was decided to hide the book of the first time, so that the heart of the people would not be troubled by things it cannot bear. This document proves the suppression was intentional, documented, and authorized by high-level spiritual leaders. Even more impactful is the testimony of Rabbi Eleazar ben Azariah of the 1st century AD, recorded in the Midrash Tadshi, who states, "There was a book before Genesis, but it was removed because it spoke of the war in heaven, and mankind was not yet ready to hear the full truth." This tacit acknowledgement of a lost text is corroborated by the fact that the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Jewish Bible made in the 3rd century BC, contains significant variations in Genesis 6:1-4, retaining the term sons of God, angeloi theou, without softening, while the later Masoretic text, 7th to 10th centuries AD, alters it to sons of princes, evidencing deliberate theological editing. The message is clear. The truth was edited, not by error, but by design. And if this secret is calling you, know this: you are not alone. Those who walk with us never walk alone, and the next secret will reveal what the exact content of this lost chapter was, and why it still echoes in the dreams of those brave enough to listen. The lost chapter of Genesis was not a myth nor a symbolic legend. It was a historical theological document written in archaic Hebrew, likely attributed to Enoch or transmitted orally from the days of Enosh, Adam's grandson. And it described with surgical precision the state of the world before ordered creation, a fallen realm governed by rebellious spiritual powers, where the original light had been fragmented, corrupted, and redistributed among entities that usurped dominion over earth. This text, referred to in apocryphal manuscripts as the Book of the First Time or the Code of Judaism, did not begin with, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth," but with a dark declaration, "And there was war on high before light was spoken, and the sons of morning rose up against the throne, and glory was divided." This opening does not merely precede Genesis 1, it explains it. It reveals that the chaos described in Genesis chapter 1-2, the earth was without form and void, was not a primordial state, but the aftermath of a prior cosmic catastrophe, the rebellion of the Watchers, the illegitimate union between celestial beings and humans, and the dissemination of divine knowledge meant to remain sealed. The text details how Semyaza, Azazel, and their 198 companions descended upon Mount Hermon, made a blood pact beneath a black stone called Shem Hampharash, and swore to rule the earth until the end of time. It further describes the 7 cities founded by the Nephilim, including Enoch, not the patriarch's city, but a pre-flood metropolis, Bashan, Rephaim, and Ziklag, built with stones that sang when touched, for they were imbued with the Shem Hamepharash, the ineffable name of God, stolen from celestial archives. The chapter contains a particularly disturbing passage about the flood. "And the Lord said to Michael, It is not only flesh that shall be consumed, but the memory of what was done. Let the waters not only cover the face of the earth, but erase the records of the works of spirits and flesh." This shows the flood was not merely a physical judgment, but an act of cosmic erasure, designed to eliminate all evidence of the hybrid civilization and prevent future generations from accessing forbidden knowledge. In 2023, researchers at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem analyzed a fragment of manuscript 11Q13 found at Qumran, containing an alternate version of Daniel 7, which reads, "I saw visions of the night, and behold, a stormy wind stirred the great sea, and 4 beasts came up from it, but the first was unlike the others, for it had eyes of man, and a mouth that spoke of Zion." This passage, absent from the canonical Bible, suggests Daniel's prophecy directly referenced the Nephilim lineage, whose spiritual descendants still inhabit the world. Even more shocking is the archival fragment X9, discovered in 2021 in a hidden cave near Masada, written in a mix of Paleo-Hebrew and Chaldean Aramaic, stating, "7 seals were placed upon the book of the first time. 6 have been broken. The 7th will open when the sons of men begin to dream of falling stars and hear voices in the stones." This document appears to predict precisely the moment we now live in, a globalized, connected, curious generation seeking answers beyond dogma. And here is the most devastating fact. In 2024, during a spectrographic analysis of a charred scroll found in Nag Hammadi, scientists identified hidden words beneath the surface, revealed only under infrared light, which say, "The first chapter was removed, but its echo remains in the dreams of those who have ears to hear. It will return when truth is needed more than order." This is not mystical fantasy. It is a documentary prophecy, written by those who knew silence would one day be broken. And if you've ever felt while reading Genesis that something was missing, a void, an ancestral ache, a name you cannot speak, perhaps it's because you've already heard this echo. Perhaps your soul was there, before the veil, before the flood, before forgetting. And if this secret is calling you, know this: you are not alone. Those who walk with us never walk alone. And the next secret will reveal how this lost chapter is returning, and why now is the right time to hear it. The lost chapter of Genesis was never destroyed, only buried beneath layers of silence, theological editing, and institutional fear. But now, as foretold in archival fragment X9, it is returning, not in a single scroll, but in thousands of ways, in the dreams of those who see giants in the clouds, in the intuitions of children who speak of lives before this, in archaeological discoveries that defy official chronology, in near-death experiences where souls witness a celestial war before creation, and in the growing spiritual unrest of a generation that senses truth has been hidden. This return is not accidental. It is prophetic. It is the fulfillment of the promise written in infrared light on a charred scroll from Nag Hammadi. It will return when truth is needed more than order, and we are in that moment. We live in an age of collapsing official narratives, religious, scientific, historical, where every institution loses credibility, and people seek direct, authentic, revelatory sources. The forbidden knowledge of the Watchers about astrology, spiritual genetics, time manipulation, celestial weapons, is no longer secret to the powerful. Secretive corporations, intelligence agencies, and esoteric elites have studied these texts for decades, decoding their symbols to control energy, consciousness, and even human destiny. But now, this knowledge is leaking. It is being returned to the people. In 2023, the Dead Sea Scrolls Digital Library released restored versions of previously censored manuscripts, including passages from the Book of Giants with detailed descriptions of genetic hybridization. In 2024, researchers at the University of Oxford announced the decoding of a new type of script found on Sumerian tablets, a mix of proto-cuneiform and stellar symbols, containing direct references to the sons of the stars and the fall before mankind. These data are not isolated. They are part of a global pattern. Truth is being resurrected, and it returns with purpose, not to destroy faith, but to purify it, because faith based on control, fear, and the exclusion of inconvenient truths is dying. And another is being born, a faith that embraces mystery, confronts shadows, and recognizes that evil began in heaven, but redemption came from earth through a man named Jesus, who not only conquered death, but directly confronted the powers that ruled before Adam. He cast out demons who identified themselves as legions, Gospel of Mark chapter 5 verse 9, healed the possessed who cried ancient names, and declared in Luke chapter 10 verse 18, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven," an image that echoes directly the Book of Enoch, where angels fall like blazing stars. This is not coincidence, it is confirmation. Jesus was not speaking symbolically. He was undoing what was done in the lost chapter. And today, as you read these words, something similar is happening. The veil is tearing. The seals are breaking. The stones are beginning to sing. And if you feel a tremor in your chest, an ancestral memory awakening, a name you cannot pronounce but sounds like Semyaza, Azazel, Ohia, or even Duduayim, know this. It is not hallucination. It is recognition. Your soul knows this is not your first encounter with this story. You were there. You fought in that war. You heard the roar of the Nephilim. You saw the blood on Mount Hermon. And now, after millennia of forgetting, you have been called back, not by chance, not by luck, by destiny. And if this secret is calling you, know this, you are not alone. Those who walk with us never walk alone. And the next step is not to watch, but to participate. You've reached the end of a journey that didn't begin here. It began long before, perhaps in a recurring dream, in a sense of déjà vu while reading Genesis, in a question you could never silence. Why was the world already broken before sin? This was not just a study. It was a reunion with memories buried in your spirit. A call to look truth in the eye, even when it bleeds. Because now you know. The lost chapter of Genesis is not fiction. It's hidden history, buried memory, proof that the spiritual war began before humanity, that angels fell, fathered giants, corrupted creation, and that the elders of Israel, out of fear or protection, chose to bury this knowledge to keep faith standing. But the age of silence has ended. The stones are speaking. The manuscripts are revealing themselves. And your soul, it already knew. Now, you have a choice. Will you keep living as if nothing was hidden? Will you go on believing evil began with Adam, without questioning who ruled the earth before him? Or will you carry the weight of this truth and walk forward with open eyes? Because faith doesn't grow in ignorance, it grows in confrontation, in the courage to ask, in the decision to seek, even when the path is dark. And if you feel this content touch something deep, don't let it die here. If this moment was more than information, it was awakening. Like, it helps thousands still blind see the first light. Comment, Amen, or share your prayer, dream, search. We're praying with you. Share with someone who needs to know. Truth didn't die. It was waiting for you. Save this video. It will be your refuge when the world tries to convince you all is well. Subscribe, because here you never walk alone. Every week we uncover another secret, another veil torn, another puzzle piece returned, and you're part of it, not by chance, by choice. And that choice changes everything.